Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Good morning and welcome to Guerilla Sports Daily. I am your host for today, Liv Moods. Just so you guys know, we have Guerilla Sports off field happening at 11. So an hour from now, we will be live from our homes because we've got a lot of cool things happening over in the Guerilla Sports studio downtown. So Nate and BK will be jumping on with me to talk all things NFL and preview the Broncos game on Sunday. But for now, we've got some daily update news, sports related things to talk about. Not too many today. I won't keep you for too long. I know it's Friday. Everybody's ready to just get to the weekend. We are so close. Hang on tight. We are so close. Okay, first and foremost, every single time I do a Guerilla Sports Daily, I swear we are always talking about how Caitlin Clark is continuing to raise the bar, and she is doing just that. Her season finale averaged 2.5 million viewers. This is cable's most viewed WNBA game ever in history. Every time Caitlin Clark takes the court, every time we see her on a nationally televised game, we know the numbers are through the roof. It's been really cool to watch the impact she's had on this season, as well as just the path that she is paving for athletes to come. It's really been a cool thing to see. Obviously, we know I don't think that her season ended the way that she would have liked it to, but that doesn't take away from anything she has done as an athlete, as well as just driving more views and revenue for the WNBA. This has been a problem that the WNBA has had for a very long time. So really cool to see her continuing to raise the bar. We've got some people in the chat. Hello, Cedric. Happy Friday. Thank you for hanging with me. Hope you have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend, because the weekend is right here. Today, actually, I'm going to be road tripping almost 7 hours to drive to go see my sister this weekend for family weekend. She is a student in college, so very excited about that. Not so excited about the road trip, but it was better than paying however much money they were trying to rob me for a flight. Nothing is cheap in this life anymore. In addition to talking about Caitlin Clark, we're going to talk about the UFC. So UFC and lawyers representing around 1,200 former fighters have agreed to a new preliminary settlement in the antitrust case that began nearly a decade ago. So lawyers are getting involved. The UFC has agreed to $375 million in compensation as part of a reworked settlement, a source told Front Office Sports. So lots of money. The UFC, as we know, honestly, the UFC to me over the last, and I just started kind of paying attention to the UFC as of recently, just from a betting perspective. People really love betting on these fights. It's a big deal. And there's a lot of revenue that the UFC is driving, because not only are people spending money to bet on this sport, also a lot of these sports you have to pay separately to watch. And I know that people pay it a lot. People often pay it. They sit around, they wait. I went to a party recently. Someone was having people over at their house for dinner, and we were sitting and we were watching. So crazy to think that even former fighters are getting compensated for something that happened nearly a decade ago, or a case that opened nearly a decade ago. But $375 million in compensation is what we're looking at for the UFC and their former fighters. So very interesting stuff there. I feel like every time we do a daily update, we're talking about Caitlin Clark, NIL, money. That's basically what we discuss a lot. Speaking of the WNBA, we're kind of backtracking now again, but the Sixers plan to submit a bid for a WNBA team. If you guys remember, the last time that I was on, maybe not the most recent last time, but times before that, we talked a little bit about the WNBA expanding to Portland and some of the cities that were on the list of potential next steps for the WNBA. One was Philadelphia, and one was also Denver. I would love to see Denver make some moves, but the mayor of Philadelphia shared the news in a public meeting Wednesday night, declaring that, that was kind of the next steps for the city of Philadelphia. As you know, Philly sports fans specifically, are very loyal, very loud, very crazy, sometimes scary even. So it does make sense to have a WNBA team in the city of Philadelphia because Philadelphia is just a very sports heavy city. You've got the Eagles, you've got the 76ers, Flyers, question mark? Did I get that right? I am not a hockey person, so if I just nailed that, I'm going to be very impressed with myself. I think it's the Flyers for the hockey team. Jesse Montano will definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is the name of the hockey team in Philly. So if I did get that right, shout out to me. Anyway, the mayor of Philadelphia said in a quote, "Our goal is for our new arena to serve as a home to both the 76ers and a WNBA franchise." So when you upgrade the arena, you know that it probably seats more people. You're going to host concerts there. That's kind of what Ball Arena here in Denver has turned into. Even it's been that way for a while. I will always and forever call it Pepsi Center just because that's how I grew up knowing it was the Pepsi Center. All that to say, you know that when you invest, because it is an investment, invest in these new arenas, they have to serve more than one purpose. So I can imagine that this is something that they really want to get moving towards. And the WNBA, like I said, listed Philadelphia as a potential next step. So maybe that is after Portland, maybe this will be the next city to acquire a WNBA team. So we've got that to look forward to. Again, speaking of the WNBA, we also have a statement. If you guys did not see, Caitlin Clark was chatting with the refs about a male fan, I believe he was a male, that was giving her a hard time. I don't know the details of it. I was not there. I was not able to hear. And we often see this, right? We see this with players like Kevin Durant, players like LeBron James, players like Russell Westbrook that can sometimes get into it with these fans that step over a line. And it's very easy as watchers of the sport to go, come on, you make millions of dollars, you're a professional athlete, like get over it. It's just a fan being crazy. But at the end of the day, there are boundaries that need to be set and they need to be maintained. And honestly, I don't think it's fair for even me to sit here and talk about it with a different tone of voice because it's a female athlete versus a male athlete. And for that, I'm wrong. I was big on, hey, ignore the fans. They're crazy. It doesn't matter what they say. But then I put myself in the position as a woman. And there's a lot of things that a male fan can say that would make me very uncomfortable and put me in a very uncomfortable position and make me feel threatened even. And so it should be no different for these male athletes on the NBA level or the NFL level. And so it does make me want to even change my tone and how I talk about these fans. I've always just been big on the athletes ignoring fans, right? Like, yes, they're there to support you, most of them, but some of them can get a little out of control. However, I've always been of the mind of, hey, you're in the middle of a game, focus on your game. You don't need to worry about these fans. They're crazy. They're going to say whatever. But there are boundaries that need to be set. And basically we saw I'm so sorry. Caitlin Clark with the refs, talking to the refs about a fan, and I think that fan was actually escorted out. I don't think the fan was able to watch. But basically, the WNBA says that the Fever Sun series highlighted some growing tensions between players and fans. And we've actually seen even Angel Reese get on her podcast that she just recently got and talk a little bit about some of the DMs that she's had to get and some of the comments that have been made to her, that we don't always get to see. And I do think it is very important for us to remember that these athletes are also human beings at the end of the day. Like, yes, we kind of put them up on this pedestal where we think they're untouchable. We think they don't have feelings. We think that they are superhuman because we may view them that way when we watch them play the sport that they are so gifted at. However, all that to say, it doesn't take away from the fact that they have emotions and they have feelings. And sometimes people do cross the line with these athletes and it's not okay. So the WNBA basically came out and just kind of made a statement about it, addressing what's been going on with the fans and the athletes, basically denouncing fans' actions towards players and trying to set that healthy boundary of, listen, we respect you and we appreciate your support and your money and this, that, and the third, but you have to be respectful of these players if you're going to be in the arenas and be able to, again, it's a privilege to be able to watch these athletes, especially in person. So I was happy to see the WNBA step forward and show some support for their players, but we do need to make sure that this is happening across the board with all players. It can't just be because Caitlin Clark felt uncomfortable, and I think that's where some of the tensions rise with Caitlin Clark is she getting princess treatment? And maybe she is, and maybe some of that's deserved. But there are other athletes that have had to deal with heckling and inappropriate comments and uncomfortable situations. And, the WNBA has got to make sure that they keep this boundary pretty solid across the board, no matter who it is that's feeling uncomfortable. So, again, makes me kind of do some reflecting as well, because I am always typically the one that's like, just ignore them. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? But they are human beings, and fans need to learn what's appropriate and what's not. Unfortunately, in this thing called society/the world, it feels like we've lost a little bit of social awareness, like what is appropriate to do and what is not. To me, a lot of it is common sense. Like, yeah, you shouldn't say those things to an athlete while you're there to watch them do their job. It's weird. It's inappropriate. I don't understand it. But not everybody thinks that way, I have learned. And it's pretty sad, and it's a little scary, the lack of social awareness some people tend to have. So, yeah, healthy boundaries need to be set, and they need to be solid, and they need to be pushed no matter who the athlete is that's feeling uncomfortable, male or female. I do think it's important that these, leagues support their players. So I'm glad to see them doing that. Finally, we've got more record-breaking views. And you guys, honestly, it's getting a little difficult to be able to keep track of where to watch games nowadays. I'm sure you feel the same. If you guys don't know, Altitude TV finally came to an agreement in order for Denver fans to be able to watch the teams that they love, which is a very exciting thing. All of that to say, it's hard to keep track of all the different freaking places you can watch sports. I'm big on Hulu. Hulu has live sports. I love Hulu. You get the sports pack, and you can get NFL Red Zone, all that sort of stuff, and I really, really like it. That being said, Peacock. Through 3 weeks of regular season, the NFL reports all games outside of Peacock, actually, exclusive, have averaged 18.6 million viewers. Some of those top games people are watching. The Chiefs start their season 3-0, has featured 3 of the 5 most watched games. The Cowboys, despite a 1-2 record so far, have played the other 2. So the Cowboys and the Chiefs are 2 very heavy favorites in terms of people tuning into those games. Not sure why the Cowboys are up there, because their games are ugly. They're struggling at the moment, but they're driving views. America's team. I don't agree with it. I don't think they should be America's team, but they are America's team, whether I like it or not. People are watching these football games. Again, there's a million different places to watch. So I find it interesting that we're still getting these high record-breaking numbers, because I feel like there's so many different places you can tune in to watch your favorite team or watch, football. The beauty of NFL Red Zone for me personally is that I can watch multiple games at a time. So I'm not sure how they are able to determine how watched these games truly are when there's so many different ways that you can watch these games. We've got some people in the chat. Noah says, it's too bad the WNBA is hell-bent on destroying Clark. Listen, I think we've got to be very specific about that comment, because I don't know that the league itself is hell-bent on destroying Caitlin Clark. Again, I think this goes back to the statement that the WNBA made. I think so much of this negativity is driven by fans, and that's what's very difficult. There's only so much you can control a crazy heckling fan, right? Especially with social media. These phones make it so stinking easy for people that lack social awareness to think that it's okay to tweet about another human in these horrible ways, or it's okay to send these nasty, threatening DMs. Our phones make us feel like there is, that boundaries don't exist. We've got access to these athletes' lives, where back in the day we otherwise wouldn't know what they're doing in their day, where they get their coffee, how they spend their evenings. But with social media, with the way in which that we constantly post about our lives on social media, I think there's a level of comfortability that some of these fans feel like they have with these athletes, although that is super not true. I think that's how they feel. And so then they feel like they're entitled to behave however they want. Now, I think that some of the negativity that is so heavy with a Caitlin Clark in this league I do think there's probably some hostility that comes from the other players in the WNBA. However, I do think a lot of it has to do with the fans creating this divide that otherwise wouldn't exist. I don't think that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, when they were going back and forth, they probably didn't even exchange but 3 or 4 words with one another. We created that as fans because we wanted this hostility. We wanted this competition. We were creating this divide that otherwise wouldn't exist. So I don't know if they're hell bent on destroying, but I do think, it puts the league in a very tough position when there's constantly these conversations about, oh, she gets this different treatment and she's this and she's that. Maybe the refs then do crack down on her a little bit because they know that they'll face, some scrutiny from the rest of the league if they don't. It does make you wonder how connected it all is, unfortunately, but at the end of the day, Caitlin Clark is still raising the bar. She's still getting the highest amount of views. She's creating history. She's dominating from a talent perspective in this league. So, I think as long as Caitlin Clark can focus on herself, stay in her own lane and not worry about the extra noise, she'll be just fine. But yeah, it is, it's pretty crazy where all of this has gone because I do think it started with fan bases just going head to head and creating a rivalry that didn't really ever need to exist. So I totally understand. That being said, that's all I've got for you today. We had a little bit of NFL, lots of WNBA today, some UFC, and of course, we will be back again Monday with more Guerilla Sports Daily, more stories to talk about, more things in the sports world that need to be discussed. But until then, make sure you are tuning in just 40 minutes at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. I will be going live with my 2 co-hosts, Nate and BK, talking all things Denver Broncos and NFL. We have week 4 already started. It happened last night between the Cowboys and the Giants. And we've got a whole Sunday slate to talk about, plus some Monday Night Football. There's a lot going on in the world of NFL, and we will be live in less than an hour to discuss it all. Cedric says, Jamal, shut up and watch me ball out. Bad vibes. P.S. It's my birthday this weekend. Happy birthday. Any advice you can give me? I'll be in my mid-20s. Take risks. Be a little bit selfish. Do things that you want to do, things that make you happy, things that fill your cup, because I kind of feel like your mid-20s is the time where you can still get away with messing up and making mistakes and taking risks and trying new things. And so do it. Do all of that and enjoy mid-20s, because I do feel like it does go by very, very quickly. I'm about to turn 27 in January, which is kind of creepy. I'm technically over the mid hump. But it does feel like once you hit like 25, after that, it just feels like birthdays don't feel as special because you just know you're getting older. But I will say, take risks, be a little bit selfish, do things that you want to do that make you happy. Because at the end of the day, when you lay down at night, all you've got is yourself when you really, really think about it. So not to get dark and creepy here. We'll wrap these up. We'll wrap this up right now. We will wrap this up again. Like I said, less than an hour, give or take 30 minutes. We will be live, myself, Nate Jackson, and BK, to talk all things Denver Broncos. So make sure you're tuning in. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday. Much love. We'll be back again very, very soon. And make sure you're following all things Guerilla Sports to keep up with our content throughout the weekend and all of the seasons that we've got covered. We've got the hockey season covered, we've got basketball, and we've got football. So make sure you're tuning into all things. Much love, and we'll see you soon. Bye.